Hey, good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you were watching around the globe. Hope you're doing well. Round two here, as Ryno had his show at 2 o'clock today. And I guess I don't know where to start today. Do you start with the unbelievable sanctions that the NCAA leveled towards Jim Harbaugh, who is now not in college, but is in the National Football League? We got the final couple of days of the Olympics, which all eyes are now going to be on Team USA and Serbia with, of course, France and Germany. So we'll see. Right now, I'm just waiting for the Olympics to be over. We get more in the training camp, get college football going on, and then we will be going full steam ahead.
No doubt, my friend. Yeah, we've got a couple of scraps to pick from. The NCAA is very interesting. Football returns tomorrow. We got a couple of games to look forward to, and then you got a full slate all weekend of preseason week one.
Did you hear what Jim Harbaugh said the other day at his press conference in relation to the spying scandal, and basically said how he was raised, and that's not part of how he lives his life, and blah, 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 and that, he didn't know anything that was going on. And very interesting how bold and direct he was.
Yeah, I didn't hear it, but it's not surprising. That's typically his style. There were some cameras on him last year with the Michigan program, so you got to see that firsthand. But, to this point in the NCAA, Grant, I think it's a bigger problem at hand that we have known for a while. It just becomes a matter of time on how this gets met with the pending lawsuit that Tennessee is still bringing forward for antitrust violations.
The other issue is how the NCAA polices all of this, because there's so much improper conduct going on that we don't even know about. Right? I mean,
100%.
And so it's almost like, who gets caught with their hand in the cookie jar and who doesn't.
Exactly right. I liken it to speeding on the highway. If you're going 70, you're probably off the radar. But when you're sticking out going 90 and a 65, you're going to get pulled over. The problem is, Grant, the sanctions that they bring down. What's confusing is now these power conferences. You could almost make an argument, Nate. These conferences have as much power as the NCAA.
Phenomenal. Absolutely. Your analogy about the speeding on the highway is spot on. All right, we can talk about that. We can talk about the NFL. You've got the link right there in the chat line. You also have, or in the chat room, you also have the QR code and everything else. I want to get to this. Yeah. Grant, Giants looking good in camp, but comes down to dime quarterback play or O-line and quarterback play when it matters. But Neighbors is the real deal. Well, first of all, everyone looks good in training camp. I've never heard of a team that doesn't look good in training camp. That's number one. Number two, training camp means absolutely zero to me. And Neighbors is not the real deal because of what he's doing in the preseason. Neighbors will be the real deal when he steps on the field in week one and starts being productive. Right now, he's not the real deal. And the Giants look good in camp. Name me one team out of 32 right now that doesn't look good in camp. Every team looks good in camp. I don't mean to be like crafty to you, but your comments have no validity to me because training camp means absolutely nothing.
I think there is one thing. If you read between the lines, you look at what the coaches and the players are saying, and you kind of pick out the coach speak. It's how those rookies are adjusting, and if they could be leaders and captains amongst teams that are growing, like the Giants looking to get better. That's the little stuff I'm trying to look at training camp for young teams.
I mean, Neighbors looks really good, but for James to say, but Neighbors is the real deal, you can't call a rookie the real deal before they step on the field in a regular season game. You can't. Okay. No. I mean, I've seen so many rookie quarterbacks, and I know we're talking about a wide receiver here. Do you know how many top flight quarterbacks that have come into the NFL that people rave about? Ryan Leaf in the preseason, just to name one. There are many others. All right. Johnny Manziel. Tim Couch. I can go on and on about young quarterbacks that look great in the preseason and have failed NFL careers. Preseason means nothing.
Yeah, no doubt. And to the neighbors hype, you kind of get it amplified because of Hard Knocks, right, Grant? You see the offseason, you
Yes.
see what the front office is saying about him. So, and to be fair, what team isn't going to hype up their draft pick, right? That's the guy they chose. You better be all in with the guy.
Yeah, no question about that. But you can't hide players when the regular season starts. Like
No.
when the player goes onto the field, it really doesn't matter what you as an organization says about the player. You can't hide that. All right. When you watch an NFL game during the regular season and you see a young player, it really doesn't matter what the media or the coaches say. Your eyes tell you, and generally your eyes are telling you the right thing.
Certainly. And there's limitations in training camp. Remember, it is controlled for the most part. It is not a live scrimmage as much as you'd like to think it is.
Do you see the NFL fined the Giants and the Lions $200,000 for their brawl the other day in their controlled scrimmage?
I did. I don't get that. When did we start coming down with fines? Incredible.
I mean, if you take your helmet off and swing at someone like we saw last year with an individual, then yes, okay. But training camp fights have been going on since the start of football.
Well, let's see what the NFL does. DK Metcalf did that today. Took his helmet off, swung at somebody, missed it, but then hit somebody with a guardian cap. So
he will be punished significantly.
We will see. NFL better be consistent with that one, Napes.
Yeah, he will be. All right, let's get to some calls.
Let's do it. Jay, welcome in tonight.
What's going on? How you guys doing?
Hi, Jay.
Hello. I got a few little updates, but first things first, I wanted to ask you, going kind of piggybacking off of what you said, you can't really tell who's the real deal and who's not. Would you agree that maybe that's more of a positional thing? For example, Joe Alt, number 5 pick from Notre Dame to the Chargers, 6'8", 4 years college experience. Do you think like you could tell that guy's going to be something in the NFL because of the position he plays, and it's not as competitive as a wide receiver with new wide receivers coming in or quarterbacks?
No, being a New York Giants fan and all of the mistakes they've made in the top 10 with offensive line, Eric Flowers, their right tackle this year, who they drafted, a couple of years ago. No, I do not agree with that. I think that here's what I think. I've asked players this before. I asked Brian Urlacher this. Brian was on my podcast. And I said, Brian, when you're on the field in training camp and you have a draftee on the field, and in this case, let's say a high draft pick, how long does it take before you can tell whether this is going to be a player or whether, we made a mistake? And he said, real quickly. You can see it real quickly when you're on the field with that individual. But Evan Neal, for instance, the Giants' right tackle, high draft pick. I think he was taken 7th. He's been terrible. He can't block his shadow. So did they know that in training camp? Not necessarily. They knew that when the regular season began, and he looked like his feet were, in cement compared to the edge rushers in this league that were going around him like he was a pylon. Same thing with Eric Flowers, who I believe it was a 9th overall first-round draft pick at left tackle. And so, no, I don't agree with that. I do not.
Okay. Right
Jay,
now,
I'm going to take it to the opposite side, though, really quick. Grant and Jay, would you say there's a little bit more leniency or patience for an offensive lineman that's got the build versus a receiver or somebody that can be a little bit more replaceable?
No question. I mean, because you're 100% correct. The route running and everything is so important in the NFL. Everything that goes on with the chemistry between a quarterback and a receiver. Yes, absolutely. I do agree with that. And same with a quarterback.
It might be a little less.
Most quarterbacks take a number of years to develop. I think every NFL general manager and coach would tell you that. So yes, I do agree with that.
It's going to be interesting, though, to see how many teams allow a quarterback to develop for a couple of years, i.e. maybe a Michael Penix, because you might get a small sample size, and then you're in the Jordan Love position, guys, where you got to pay the guy you've invested.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I would say, though, I would actually go the opposite. I think linemen are actually more expendable than a really good skills position player. Like a
Why?
Tyreek Hill is an extremely talented. You can't teach that. Just like you can't teach size either.
Why do you think they're more expendable?
When you would look at depth charts and stuff, I mean, especially with like interior linemen, it's not very. I don't want to say it's not hard to make it to that level because it's very hard, even if you are a
Yep.
big and gifted, talented person, and it's a lot of work. But I would say when you're looking at, like I said, a top talent like a Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, like these top tier guys, that's a lot harder to replace than another
Name
guy
me
who's.
one team in the NFL that's good that doesn't have a good offensive line.
That's very true too. There's a lot of
Justin
teams that
Jefferson, Justin Jefferson, and Tyreek Hill are so-so players if they're playing on teams that don't have a good offensive line because
oh,
their quarterback won't have time to throw him the ball.
that's very true.
Devontae
That's
Adams.
yeah. I was gonna say Devontae Adams. I don't
Great
think the
job
Raiders
right
O
there,
line is that
Rhino.
good.
Perfect.
Honestly, I was just gonna ask you that, Rhino and Grant. I don't think the Raiders O line is really that talented, but Devontae is just Devontae Adams. You're not gonna find another one of those guys.
I think their offensive line,
Is
well, first of all,
mediocre at best, right?
Devontae Adams, as you can see in the Netflix series Receivers, was not happy with Jimmy Garoppolo
Mhm.
Oh,
and was a lot more happy when the coach was fired and they changed quarterbacks. But their offensive line, I don't think was terrible. I think it was, I don't know what. How would you
I
characterize it, Rhino?
I think it
Average?
was I think it was average. Yeah,
Yeah,
Colton
I do too.
Miller
I think it
anchoring
was
it.
average.
He's had some injury issues. I think it was more of the system with Josh McDaniels, the culture. It just was
I
not
agree.
vibing with the entire team, Jay.
All right, let me ask you this, guys. Rhino, you said this last week, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, so forgive me.
Yeah.
How are the Niners with Trent Williams and without Trent Williams?
With Trent Williams or without him, they're 2-3. I only have the without, so I'll give you a
That's
couple
fine.
more.
Okay, so a team that was in the Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
When he wasn't on the field, they had a losing record. Now, in all fairness, that coincided also with Deebo Samuel not being on the field for a couple of those games.
and
That
who
is
who were
true.
the contenders? Who did they play those games?
Well, they lost to Cleveland on the road. They lost to
So you got
Minnesota on the
You got
road.
Myles Garrett right there on the D line for Cleveland.
I don't care who's on the D line. In the National Football League, every single team has at least one good edge rusher. Yeah, now Garrett's really good, but you go look at all the teams in the NFL and look at take the best lineman on the other team. Start in the AFC East and go all the way through the conference and then start in the NFC East. Pretty much every team has a dynamic pass rusher. Maybe
Okay.
not as
I
good as
I can agree with that.
Micah Parsons or
No, I agree
Garrett,
with
but
that.
every team's got a special player.
And that could
So
be either a linebacker or a D, like an edge
exactly,
rusher,
Mhm.
right? Okay,
Like
I could agree with
absolutely.
that. I could agree with that.
Here's the point that we're making, all right, or I'm making. You may disagree, and if you do, I respect that. I know one thing, and I've said this for years. If I were a general manager in the NFL, the first area that I would solidify would be my offensive line. I'm talking about on the offensive side of the ball, not defense now.
Okay.
I would start from the offensive line and go from there. Because if I
Okay.
have a very good offensive line and a average running back quarterback, they'll be better. Okay. If I have a good quarterback, good running back, but well, look at Saquon Barkley. He's a perfect example. The Giants during Saquon's New York Giants career had a substandard,
Absolutely.
below average offensive line. Barkley was limited. Daniel Jones was limited. Now, maybe Daniel Jones isn't that good. I don't know. But what I do know is if you put Saquon Barkley behind a good offensive line, he will be unbelievable.
Absolutely. Great point, Naves. I think the only exception that I would think of or situation is if you're running an offense where you have a quarterback that's more mobile. You may need a quicker line, a more mobile line where you're building around that player. But other than that, I'm kind of with you. The offensive line's where it's at, Jay.
Okay. So I'm assuming you'd go So you're going with the O line too. If
O
you're
line,
returning,
absolutely.
okay, and
Yeah.
then for offense,
I'm starting with the tackles,
yeah,
and
that's
then I'm getting I'm getting a really good center. But I got to
really good
have,
center.
in order to
Agreed.
be good in the NFL, I have to have good tackles. And again, look at Kansas City in the Super Bowl 3 years ago when both their starting tackles didn't play, and Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and that offense couldn't even score a touchdown. Why couldn't they score a touchdown? Because Mahomes was running for his life the whole game, because Tampa's defensive line, they destroyed the backup tackles for Kansas City. Think about that. The Chiefs played in the Super Bowl and didn't score a touchdown.
Great point. And your O linemen have to be probably some of the most intelligent players on the field too, with all the calls that are going on, pre-snap changes, pretty crazy stuff.
Here's one. New York Giants should have franchised Barkley. No, they should not have. All right, they should not have. You
I
can
agree
lose
with you on
without
that
Barkley
too.
just as well as you can lose with Barkley.
I agree with you, Grant, with that is too. It's not just because the team or the Giants in this case can do it. It's because he has been such a loyal, great performer for your team. You want to give him longevity in a contract. You don't want to have him go out there, make 20 something plus million one season, and then get a Nick Chubb injury like last season where his whole knee almost got torn off his body essentially. And now there's no longevity in that. You don't want to treat your players, especially the guys that have been loyal and who've getting their butt
Well,
whooped every Sunday for you.
a franchise is only a 1 year deal, but
That's my point. You want to have
yeah,
that.
yeah,
You
yeah,
want to
yeah.
have you don't want to do that. That's even if it's a lot of money at once, it's not right, in my opinion.
Well,
And I'm sure his
well,
agent feels the same.
I don't know if I don't agree with you that it's not right. If it's not right, then the players union shouldn't have agreed to it in collective bargaining, because the players have to agree
Okay.
on the economic system in the NFL. They have to, in collective bargaining, that's on the table. And if they refuse that, then so I don't quite agree with you there. Everything's collectively bargained. What I would say is that, and it's true, because you're going to look at the movement just this past year in the running backs. Look at all the running backs that
all over.
switched.
Yep.
I mean, from the Titans with Derrick Henry now to Baltimore, with Josh Jacobs going from the Raiders to Green Bay, with Saquon Barkley. The running back has been devalued in the NFL, and I find it to be sad in a way, because I think it's such an important part of the game. But what we have seen, and I think Kansas City is probably the leading role model for this, if I can use the term role model, or the best example. They seemingly always have different running backs who always seem to excel, because the Chiefs have always had a pretty good offensive line and good skilled people. And it just seems like whoever they put back there is successful. And teams look at that model and go, we don't have to spend, X number of dollars on a running back. I would not take a running back high in the draft anymore. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, I think it's also, I think we've talked about it briefly too in the past, but my point was that it's a high contact position. Like
Yes.
every time a running back gets the ball, you're getting touched 9 times out of 10.
And you're picking up the hot blitzer as well.
Yeah. He's there. Great point, Ryno. So you're getting touched, and it's a lot of risk in that. You're getting hit by guys that are 2, 3 times your size. In some cases, it's brutal. It is really brutal.
Well, to both of your points, if there is a better example coming out of college of what you would want in a prototypical running back? You remember Saquon? I mean, massive legs, had size, had speed, had power, and look at how injured
Shout
he
out to
got
Penn State
in New York. So to Grant's point, that's a lot on the line. I know it's the game, but that's on the line too.
Yeah, shout out to Penn State. I had to throw it because my mom went there. I told you my grandmother worked there for 35 years. So shout out to Penn State.
So I guess these guys have to start thinking about, and as you see more and more documentaries come out, Grant and Jay, you hear more players at a high level talking about, well, it's not really smart to take a hit here. I'm going to get down. And I think, and that's kind of a nice push.
They're called business decisions.
And
that guy made a business decision, Ryno. He just fell.
It's a push and pull, right? Because as coaches, you want them to run through the wall. You want them to get that extra yard. But for longevity, you got to think about yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely. To revert back really quick, if it were my franchise, I think I would pick quarterback over O-line. I would invest more. I would look for best free agents in that case. But I'm actually really big on the opposite side of the ball. I'm a huge fan of getting the best edge rushers and the best nose tackles you could get. If I could get Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett all on the same D line, I would love to spend most of my salary cap on that and make it very ugly for other teams.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but I think if you have two really good edge rushers, you're in a really good position in the NFL. I would definitely go along with that. I don't think there's any question about that. I think when the Niners did that last year, right? And
Yes, with
Chase Young,
Armstead and I forgot the
right?
guy.
Was it Chase Young?
Hargraves.
Yeah, but who's the player they got from Washington?
Chase Young.
Yeah, Chase Young.
Chase Young,
To go
yeah.
along
You're
with
right.
Bosa and Hart. So yeah, I mean, but you got to be the salary cap in the NFL is a beast because it's a hard cap.
Mhm.
And I think personally, I think the biggest problem in the NFL are the contracts that quarterbacks like Jordan Love just got,
Mhm.
who is a good quarterback, but is nowhere deserving
Of
to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. That's absurd. That's the problem I see with the NFL.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but at the same time, it's also market supply and demand. I mean,
Yes.
it's very hard to find with that
Yes.
much potential, that talent. He did great last season,
Yep.
That's very rare to come across in the quarterback market, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up
you're
briefly
right.
though.
But the Packers are paying Jordan Love for what they think he's going to be, not for what he was.
You have
Exactly.
to, because it's so scarce almost. Like, I mean, look at, no disrespect, but I mean, you got guys out there that are like Daniel Jones, Ryan Tannehill, what's the guy, Derek Carr now, who are like mediocre quarterbacks now.
But then Jay, you got Joe Flacco's that come off the couch and
Brock Purdy.
inspire a team player.
Brock
Yep,
Purdy.
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy, we could make the argument about he has Trent Williams and then he has a Chris McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle, and Debo.
Well, you can make that
honestly.
argument about Joe Montana when he had, John Taylor and he had Jerry Rice and he had Brent Jones and you had Roger Craig and you had Tom Rathman and you had one of the best offensive lines in football. The reality is when you're in the NFL, you have to judge a player based on what and how they perform and don't say, well, yeah, because they had this player or that player. You can only go by what you go by. You can't say a hypothetical, well,
True.
if he played on the Giants, I'm talking about Brock Purdy, he wouldn't be very good. Well, we don't know how he would be. So, yes, do I think it helps to have Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and all of those? Yeah, I do think it helps a quarterback, but you still have to go out and make the plays. And the point is, there have been a lot of quarterbacks that have had really good offensive lines, good skilled people, and they still don't flourish. So that you still have to go out and make the plays. You know that.
Yeah, that's also. I mean, Brock Purdy went to his first year Super Bowl. Like you can't just do that with. That's like saying I'm going to go on the Niners and be Brock Purdy because I have all his weapons. That's not how it works. So I get what you're saying.
Dak Prescott, for the bulk of his career, has had a very good offensive line, very good skilled people, very good running back with Ezekiel Elliott for many of the years, and is 2-6 or something like that in the playoffs. Or so do I think Brock Purdy with that same offense would be 2-6 in the playoffs? No, I don't. I think it'd be 6-2. So there is something. You still got to go out and play.
Definitely. Since we're on the 49ers, I wanted to ask you guys about the Ayuk situation, and I also wanted to throw in the female boxer we were talking about last week, who had to step down, actually is getting an opportunity to go for gold. So after all of this stuff was happening, this, that, and the third, she ended up winning. They allowed her to come back. She won the semifinal, and now she's going to be competing for gold, and she'll be guaranteed at least silver if she loses. So I wanted to throw that in there.
The Taiwan boxer in the same boat also will be competing for a medal as well.
Yes. So originally they had to step down, and so I'm glad to see some type of justice with that. And I'm glad you guys heard about that. But yeah, the Ayuk situation, I remember bringing it up to you maybe a month or so ago, Ryno and Grant. I think it was separate shows, and I think me and Grant had a slight disagreement. Always respectful, of course. I love hearing his perspective.
Yeah, of course.
You know, if I come in here and try to win an argument, do I really win anything? Do I gain any new knowledge? You know, kind of a philosophy thing. Not really, right?
It's
But
a good platform to exchange different opinions and different viewpoints. I don't know if anyone really ever wins an argument or a debate. The you know who wins the debate? The people that are viewing the program and how they feel about which individual
they
on
get
the
to
show
gain both
presented the best.
perspectives. Yeah,
So that's the way I look at it. But go ahead.
Long story short, so we're here now. It seems like it's inevitable. He's gonna get moved before the season. He's showing up to practice, but he ain't practicing, which I think, it's controversial. I think it's hilarious in a good way. Like it's like he's said where he stands. Whatever you did say he had to show up to practice, and he showed up. Practicing, that's a different situation. I didn't write the contract. I didn't see the contract, but I just thought it was a little bit hilarious. Nothing against him or the Niners. But I do think it was a little unfair that if you aren't going to extend him at fair market value, then you should have traded him in the first place. Maybe even somewhere around at the NFL draft, or I was pretty much on the side of advocating for him getting his deserved pay, his market value. And there's a couple other people, and I think, Grant, you were more leaning towards, well, he signed the rookie contract. I obviously it's not verbatim. I don't remember word from word, but that this is the contract he agreed to, and I totally understand that perspective, and I want to hear if it's changed. But at the same time, it's like I kind of look at it like you sign a 30-year mortgage. 10 years later, it appreciates in value. Do you sell it for what you bought it for because that's the contract you bought it for, or do you sell it for what it's worth, kind of deal? And I think seeing what all these other guys are getting, who aren't really as good as him, in my opinion. I'm not saying, obviously, there's some guys who are better than him, but I think he deserves fair market value, and I want to get both of your takes on that.
Well, the Niners have given him permission to negotiate and find out what he could get with other teams and see if they can make a deal. It's a tough situation for the Niners, for Ayuk, and right now, again, you can only go by what you read. It seems like the Niners' asking price is making it very difficult to trade him.
Yeah. It has to be a win-win on both sides for sure. They're not just going to give him away for.
But you got to also understand this. The Niners don't have to trade Brandon Ayuk. They don't have to. He's still a commodity, and he's still under contract to the 49ers. So John Lynch is going to do what's best for the 49ers, number one, and then number 1A or 1B, he'll do what's best for Ayuk. But right now, first and foremost, he's doing what's best for his football team.
Yeah, let's see what happens if it comes to that, where the trade isn't there, because those game checks are pretty large and they only come 17 times, 18 times a season. So if I'm looking at the situation, I think the 49ers see Brandon as the expendable one when you look at him and Trent Williams. Trent Williams, although he still has time on his deal as well, I feel like you can replace or at least try to do something with somebody else. Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, who's now had some issues with his health, is a rookie. You could do something there. It's harder to replace a Trent Williams. So Ayuk,
I can agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, the Niners, as you said, with Pearsall, they spent a high draft pick on a wide receiver.
Exactly right. And I think that's where the Niners are kind of like, is it going to pan out? Is it not? And it's still early. But the bigger question is, you see all these stars, guys, that are asking for these bigger extensions, or it's happening as soon as the guaranteed money's gone. Tyreek Hill, same thing. And so where does that go to, and what type of precedent does that set for a franchise or a GM towards the players?
And it kind of circles back to what we were talking about earlier, and the Saquon Barkley thing, and how it's a collective bargaining agreement. And I understand that. I'm more versed in NBA contracts. And I shouldn't say that because I'm not a lawyer, but I watch the NBA more. I try to figure out how that works more than I do the NFL. And like you said, Grant, it's a hard cap. Ryno, it's a hard cap in the NFL. Yep. It's
and you don't have guaranteed contracts in the NFL. In the NBA, your contracts are guaranteed.
Exactly, and I think that's why. Also, circling back, I said Saquon should get a longer term contract, because I mean, unless you're getting a veteran minimum in the NBA or something, you're getting some type of years back or something like that. Most of the time, it's structured out you're getting this much per year, year after year after year, versus in some cases with the NFL, you see, hey, I'll give you such and such as a sign-on bonus for the first year, but the next 2 years I'm going to pay you the minimum salary because
Listen, if the players don't like the contract economic system in the NFL, then the next time they go to the bargaining table, they need to stand firm or don't play, and they'll get the system changed. I mean, it's really, I hate to say that, but they are a union, and they need to not agree to something in collective bargaining that they're not going to live by.
That's very true.
The players, as much as I want the players to be paid, you can't have it both ways. You can't, and that's what they're asking for right now. That's a difficult ask.
Yeah, I'm more for the players. I love to see guys, unless your name is Ben Simmons or Zach LaVine, where you make $40 million and then you sprain your ankle every
or
season.
Lonzo Ball, who opted in.
And apparently his brother isn't too far fetched because he was out with 6 months with a sprained ankle or something like that. Anyway, I'm for the players for the most part, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
I think
I understand. Without the players, you don't have a league.
That's very true too.
Thank you, buddy. Good stuff today.
Thank you.
Appreciate
you. Hey, I want to tell you about New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you, and they are available around the clock 24/7 for your plumbing needs and repairs. Just go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. Hey, folks, Sunrise Landing. It is in Calusa, and CalusaSunrise.com will get you all the information you need from this beautiful development from Blazona Development in Calusa. 6 models to choose from, no Mellorews, no homeowners, various lot sizes. It's really a phenomenal area right next to the Calusa Golf and Country Club. Good access to the major arteries like I-5, Highway 20, Highway 45. Again, go to CalusaSunrise.com and check out Sunrise Landing. That's CalusaSunrise.com and Sunrise Landing. Happy to have you join us right here on a variety of topics. But there is no easy answer when it comes to players' contracts and professional sports. There's no perfect system. Look at baseball and the inequity you have between the Oakland A's and the New York Yankees, or the Oakland A's and the Tampa Bay Rays and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Okay. It's a very, imperfect system. That's why you have revenue sharing, luxury tax, you have all of that to try to, make it more equitable, but it's not. In football, it's pretty equitable. I mean, the pie is cut is 132 with all the money, and you have the same chance to be good if you are in Green Bay as you have if you're in New York.
That's right. Absolutely right. It comes down to being strategic and
down to
management and trends. We see these things change. Just last year, we're talking about the running backs. Market is still down, but you're seeing running backs getting paid a little bit more. So there's ebbs and flows to it, Napes.
So I like that system better than any of the other sports we're talking about. I like it better than the NFL. Excuse me. All right. I mean, I like the NFL system, I should say, better than the NBA system or better than baseball system, because in the NFL, every team has the same chance of being successful. In the NBA, that's not true. All right, I'm sorry, but Sacramento does not have as good of a chance to be successful as New York, based on the pure economic structure of how much revenue Madison Square Garden provides with TV contracts, sponsorships, absurd ticket prices. James Dolan has a better opportunity because of the resources, regardless of the cap. They have a better chance to succeed in New York than they do in Sacramento. Now, you can make an argument that in the past 30 years, Sacramento's been more successful than the Knicks. But the point I'm trying to make is it's not an equal playing field. When you talk about the Lakers, let's go now out west, and the Kings, because the TV deal for the Lakers is mammoth compared to the TV deal for Sacramento, and radio too, by the way.
Yeah, and the opportunities off the court are also larger in those big markets and cities for the players. But to your point about it not being equitable, I think that's what this new CBA is trying to fix with the aprons. And you saw the scrambling that all teams had to get or do to get under the aprons. So time will tell if that evens things out a little bit, Names.
All right, Baki wants us to predict the score tomorrow. I'm not going to predict the score, but I'm going to predict the United States wins by 25 points.
I'm going to say USA by 21.
I hope it's a good game. I hope it's competitive, but I think the United States, they've already blown Serbia off the court twice, once pre-Olympics, once in the Olympics. Serbia looks slow and unathletic to me, and unless they're making a high number of threes, they will not be in this game.
Yeah, the flip side of that, too, is they got to the free throw line 18 times against Australia. They're going to have to do a lot to get to the line 18 times against USA.
And Nikola Jokic is going to have to be great.
Great.
Right. And he can be great, but he's going to have to be great.
Yeah, and you know who's due on the other side? Steph Curry. He has not had a great Olympics. He is due to go off any single time. And obviously, the first time Serbia played USA, the game plan was get the ball out of Jokic's hands. So that should likely be the same tomorrow with the three bigs.
Yep, I'm with you 100%.
Yep. And we go to Alex. Welcome in tonight, Alex.
Hey, how's your guys' night?
Hello.
Hey, so I want to talk about football a little bit, but Grant, you said something right now that made a lot of sense, where you said that the Knicks have a lot better of a chance being a big market team than the Kings, and that quickly sparked something in me where about a year or two ago when the Kings, everybody was thinking if we could somehow land or trade for OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges, it would be a dream come true, right? And the Knicks got both of them, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, yeah, you know, it's like that would probably never happen with the Kings. You know what I mean? We were clamoring so hard for just one, and the Knicks got both. And
the majority of top flight players, not all, the majority want to play on big market teams.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to give you your props with that. That, like I said, resonated with me a lot, being a small market Kings fan. Hopefully we'll land another big fish at another time. We'll see what happens this year. But I want to talk about football a little bit. I'm a Raider fan, but like 95% of my friends, my group, are 49er fans. So I'm in that loop, in that circle a lot. And a lot of them do want to trade Ayuk so they can make space for Purdy and that whole situation. I guess from my outside perspective looking in, I almost see it as that Rams season from a couple years ago when they went all out and they won a Super Bowl, right? I'm not saying that's the same thing with the Niners, but it's going to be harder next year. I feel like this is their biggest chance to go all out because of Purdy's contract. So I'm almost thinking maybe don't trade Ayuk, maybe just go all in this year, because nothing's promised next year after Purdy's contract. Like you guys mentioned, Jordan Love's contract I didn't expect that. So who's to say Purdy won't get the most now? I'm not saying he will, but next year's not promised. So if I'm them, I would think just go all out this year.
What they've done.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryno.
Yeah, what they've done leading up to this point, to what you're saying, Alex, is exactly right. Like they've done everything to try to get here, so it would make sense, or it wouldn't make sense if you didn't go all in. But also, to your other side with the Niners and the Purdy contract, you have to look at the age of some of these guys. McCaffrey, 28, Trent Williams, 36, Kittle is getting in his 30s. So that window, regardless, with or without Purdy, with or without Ayuk, it's now. It is now.
I want to get to this question since we were talking about what small market teams won. Have you ever heard of the San Antonio Spurs? They've got 5 championships. Anyway, if you draft well, and they were lucky, so it's not a matter of drafting well. They were very lucky that they got David Robinson and Tim Duncan, all right, because they won the lottery. Yeah. But listen, the NFL is about, if you're good with a quarterback on his rookie contract, in other words, if he's good, you have a chance to do it. It does become more difficult, as you said, once that quarterback gets their second contract.
Yeah. So, and again, I don't want to, in the chat, people thinking, oh, he thinks the Niners are going to be terrible next year. I don't think it's that, but I just think obviously this is the giant year. And not only that, I do think there's such a thing as Super Bowl fatigue in that receivers thing you guys mentioned. They've been to the dance already a couple years where you see Kittle, he's kind of sad and saying, oh, I'll be back next time. I'll be back next. This is his third time saying that. Ryno
Yep.
mentioned he's older. I think there's some fatigue in that championship run already too.
Well, there's extra football that you're playing. Take away the mental side, just physically too.
Yep. How about this? Toronto? You think Toronto is a small market team? Seriously? Are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me?
No.
Good Lord. All right.
No.
Toronto's not mid-market. Toronto is a big market because Toronto has the entire freaking country.
That's hilarious.
All
And
of
last thing I
Canada.
want
Oh my God. All right. What do you think? What if Purdy continues to play the way he has?
Mhm.
Why would he not get a contract exactly what Jordan Love got at whatever juncture that it's going to happen? That's the type of money we're talking about.
if you would have asked me this maybe 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said he'll get top 5, top 10 money. But after seeing that Jordan Love deal, this quarterback market, they're aging like cell phones, just super quick. Everybody's just, trying to get the biggest, baddest thing. And I think Jordan Love is good, as you guys said, but man, that was pretty crazy that he's already getting the top guaranteed money already. So I guess now in today's time, I would probably think he's going to get a higher contract than Jordan Love, and that wouldn't be great for the Niners cap or whatever. But that's even more reasoning why I think they're going to go all in this year. And in my opinion, just keep Ayuk and do what you can this year because next year isn't promised.
Well, I still think the Niners could be very good without Brandon Ayuk.
No, yeah, 100%. But we'll see. I do see the point in trading for him and for anticipating that cap space for Purdy. And last thing, normally preseason doesn't really matter to me either. But being that I am a Raider fan and I'm not looking to for a championship this year, we don't have a quarterback, so it'll be kind of fun to see a quarterback competition and even to see the Steelers quarterback competition too with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson.
Yep.
With so that I guess I'm looking for reasons to make it fun. But appreciate the time and you guys have a great night.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time to call the show. We also appreciate Bennett's and their 3 locations, whether it is Sacramento, Roseville, or the West Side Grill in Rockland. I cannot wait to get to California at the end of this month, and I will be at Bennett's often, and I am really looking forward to the Redfish. I'm also going to get to New York one time. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com, prime seafood and steak. Don't forget about their happy hour, sips and taste from 2 to 6 every day. It's great. Did I make you hungry, Ryno? Go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com, Bennett'sRestaurants.com.
Napes, you made me want to eat the plate that comes along with that New York, my friend.
Oh,
that
my God.
thing's so good.
I think that I won't get to New York for lunch.
Too much.
Yeah, it's too. But at dinner, the first time I go there for dinner, and they bring out the steaks on a wooden plank, and they go, choose the one that you want.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
It is so good. Oh, my God.
And there is no mistaking the temperature. If you ask for medium rare, you will get medium rare. Bennett's is fabulous.
Oh, it's great. It is great. So, what do you think? Gut feeling, week 1, is Brandon Ayuk going to be on the field wearing a 49ers uniform or not?
I'm going to say no. I think that ship has sailed. The fact that they're allowing him to negotiate, the Steelers seem to be an interested party. Niners want a receiver and draft compensation. I think the Niners feel they can roll without him. How about you, Napes?
These things generally get worked out one way or the other the final week before game 1. Generally, as you said, players don't want to lose game checks if they have not been moved. Is he really going to not play?
But doesn't this one feel a little bit different, Grant? There's been more ebbs
It
and
does.
flows with this versus Nick Bosa last year, where there was an understanding that deal was getting done.
Yes. So do I think it will be a significant loss for the forward? Yeah, I mean, I do think it would be significant, but I don't think it's like – I'll tell you this. I think the Niners right now, I'm a little worried about I call it trends. I don't like what the trends are with the Niners. McCaffrey already with a calf sprain.
Yep.
Calf strain. Yeah, listen, I know it's the first week of August, but you saw what happened with Joe Burrow last year, right?
Absolutely. Aaron Rodgers, think about how long he dealt with calf strains and how they lingered during his time in Green Bay. And to your point, without McCaffrey, the Niners, McCaffrey, 3-4 without McCaffrey, 8-9 without Samuel, 2-3 without Ayuk. So all of those players matter.
Spot on. If I were to tell you that the Niners would fall off the map this year, who wins that division? The Rams, right?
Rams. Absolutely.
Right. Yep. I think it's San Francisco, the Rams, Seattle, and Arizona right now is how I'm looking at that division.
I might even have Seattle towards the bottom as a Seahawks fan, but yeah, I think the Rams
below Arizona.
Possibly. I think it's going to be a rough year for Seattle. I think the quarterback position, Geno's still dealing with a few bumps and bruises. I'm not liking what I'm seeing out of training camp, but as you said, don't put too much weight into it.
You know, the people do not understand market sizes. Jay, stop it with the nonsense. Would you please stop it? Sacramento is small because Sacramento used to be small. Sacramento is now growing a little bit. Hopefully, the franchise can grow with it. Sacramento is one of the most deceiving market sizes in the United States of America. Okay, they are, I believe, the last time I looked, the 19th largest TV market in America. You want to know why that is? Because the market includes Stockton and Modesto. Nobody considers Stockton and Modesto part of Sacramento, except for in the TV market size. So Sacramento is a deceiving market size because it includes two areas that aren't really Sacramento. So Sacramento is technically a medium market, mid-market is the correct term. They are a mid-market, but they're really not a mid-market. They're really a small market.
So who else would you put as a small market alongside Sacramento in that same area?
San Antonio is a small market. Milwaukee is a small market. What?
Would you say Phoenix?
No. Phoenix to me would be a mid-market, but not like they between small and mid. Utah.
Okay.
All right. And there are many in the NBA, but to me, you know, the TV market of Sacramento includes Stockton and Modesto.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Grant. Didn't think about that.
Yeah, they judge market size by population. Yes, that's right, James.
Good job there.
Yeah, and you know what? Someone said north to Chico and Reading as well. True, but there are a lot of TV markets that have areas that aren't part of their metropolitan area that are still part of the market. So, yeah, I get you. Like, for instance, the Milwaukee market. Well, you know, not that Green Bay is a big town. Green Bay is very, very small market, but that includes, you know, Green Bay includes there are, you know, Minneapolis. Well, you also have St. Paul. So it's Minneapolis, St. Paul is the TV market, right? It's just.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Interesting stuff. Hey, every team gets the same amount of draft picks unless you trade them or you're penalized. So that's what you got to do. Capitalize.
You got your show tomorrow at 2:00, partner?
I do indeed. Thank you for asking. We'll have a fun day.
What time is that game tomorrow, U.S. and Serbia? I have
12
to
o'clock.
look. 12 o'clock Pacific?
Yes.
All right. So you want to come and do a show tomorrow at 8 and we'll recap everything?
Let's do it. Hopefully we're talking about a win.
Appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us and your difference of opinion. And I got it, and I mean this. I'm not trying to be condescending. Just Google TV markets. Just Google, and you can see the market sizes. New York is 1, LA is 2, Chicago is 3, right? And you can look at San Francisco, Philadelphia. You can look at all the other major markets, but just go look, and it will tell you the size of the markets. All right, Ryno, have a good night, buddy.
Appreciate it, partner. You too.
talk to you tomorrow, 2 o'clock, the King's Court, and I will be here